Hello everyone and welcome to the Flupdate. I will be your host Flubb, and this is going to be a good show today. It's going to be a short show as well. We're not going to have a lot of different things to cover because of the greatest event of the year. It's better than Christmas. It's better than your birthday. It is TI. So TI is coming up in exactly a month, and we're going to start seeing those great games come out. So there's not going to be a lot in the tournament scene. We only have a few different tournaments that are out. There's actually going to be quite a lot this week, or this past week has happened, and there's going to be a few this week. This week is going to be more focused on Tier 2, Tier 3 teams. But last week there was still a tournament that was focused on all the Tier 1 teams, a lot of the teams that are going to be showcased in TI. So we're going to be talking about the results there, the Mars Dota 2 League. And we're also going to be talking about team transfers, because obviously whenever the TI comes up, it's the biggest event of the season. It's the biggest event of the year for any Dota 2 player. And if you don't get into those tournaments, it can be devastating to your health of your team, and you can kind of look at your players and be like, well, we didn't make the best thing in the season, so why are we playing together? So we'll see some disbands from there, and this is going to be the first this week. And also there's going to be some disbands of Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4 teams. Kind of hard to call them Tier 4, but there's going to be some other different lower teams that maybe you've heard of in your general region that you can see in the qualifiers or things like that. They're going to have some switch-ups as well. Without further ado, let's jump into the team transfers tonight. So the team transfers The team transfers will be, first and foremost, Team Faceless sadly has now departed. They have come to a consensus. They started up after last TI, and they were only going to play a year. It was TI to TI, and because the next TI is already decided, there's already people playing, they thought, well, they must break up at this point and try their luck in a more competitive environment, because they were all friends and enjoyed each other. I'm sad to see this, because I really enjoy a lot of the people on Team Faceless, and honestly I had big hopes for them. If you remember, I was having them going to TI on my list, so I'm a little disappointed by that. But hopefully we'll see after TI them getting onto really good teams, because it's always a big shakeup, and there's always a lot of really interesting things that happen after TI. So, some great news there. Sorry about that. We also have, in other news, we have Mars Dota. And Mars Dota 2 League 2017 is going to be... Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted here. 2017 is going to have a little bit of a different... has a little bit of a different play in it. On this tournament. The format is still the same as always. Round robin, group stage, and double elimination for the main stage. So no too big surprises there. It was $250,000 prize pool, generous but well understood prize pool for other tournaments that are not majors or TIs. That's generally what the bigger names are going to go for at that point. The location is in China, and it is 4 teams that were invited and 4 teams that qualified. And the teams that were able to go into this tournament were Invictus Gaming, Newbee, OG, Evil Geniuses, LGD Gaming, LGD.Forever Young, Clutch Gamers, and Vici Gaming. So, a lot of really big names there. Obviously, a lot of people that a lot of fans, a lot of people that are going to TI in general. There was a lot to be played in this tournament. There was a lot of really enjoyable games that didn't reveal too much about their strategy, and that's kind of what it seemed like. There was teams that seemed to underplay and teams that just played really well but didn't do anything too crazy outside of picks. And then there was games where the ones I personally really enjoyed were the ones that they went outside of their comfort zone and picked really wildly, maybe to try stuff out, kind of not necessarily stuff for the TI, but maybe to try stuff out for the boot camp to see if it's even successful and see if they should even start boot camping it. And it was just like 1 or 2 games here or there. There was a couple in the qualifiers, like in the actual group stage section, but there's a few, and I'm gonna get to them at the end. But what's most important is you want to know who won in the tournament. So OG got 4th. We have Newbee getting 3rd. We have LFY achieving 2nd. And we have LGD getting 1st. So not a lot of surprise there, honestly. LGD and LFY have both looked very, very strong. It's just an amazing organization right now. And I do think that they're still going to be contenders. It's kind of funny. A lot of people think that if you're going to be a big target right before TI, it's always like the TI curse. If you win a tournament or if you win a major, you're going to be a huge focus during TI. So a lot of people will underplay around there, and obviously not to reveal any strategies or things like that. And I don't think that they revealed anything too crazy about their strategies. They've kept the same strategy over the past few months between those two teams. They just really run a successful, well-oiled machine. They have had really great laning phases, great mid-game. They just had great everything. It was really a beautiful thing to watch those two teams. And they did face off in the finals. They actually had LFY knock them out, knock out LGD off the winners bracket in the winners finals. And then they had LFY, LFY stayed there, and then LGD won all the way back up to face them in the final round. And LGD actually took 2 games on them before LFY even won 1. But the game actually went to a best of 5, and it was 3-2 actually. So they had LGD winning the first 2, LFY winning the second 2, and LGD finishing up at the end. So it was a kind of a roller coaster ride of emotions if you were more of an LFY fan like me than you were an LGD fan. And there was a lot of, like I said, there was a lot of interesting games and a lot of interesting content within it. But I have to pick out my favorite games, and my 2 favorite games that I enjoyed watching were the Game 3 of the Grand Finals, LGD versus LFY, where LFY had an aggressive trilane of Night Stalker, AA, and CK, with Pugna mid and a safelane omni. A really interesting idea. They obviously the classic old CK AA combination coming out in aggression with another very tanky aggressive hero like Night Stalker. A very good combination there. Night Stalker is also very good with AA during night. He can provide a pretty much automatic stun whenever he hits with a slow. It's a very long slow. It's very nice. The Pugna mid kind of shores up a lot of the problems that they have in the early game and kind of makes them even stronger in the mid game. So the potential that they went for was just to win the game, win their lane, win the game from there. And when they had their matchups, it was very, very well matched up. It was very intense. It's so awesome to have a safe lane Omni that was able to farm up pretty freely and make this kill tri-lane. It's something that I used to run all the time, and this is why it's one of my favorite drafts, is that it's something that I used to run in my old parties and my old teams. I would run these like 3 stun comps or very heavy kill lanes that didn't look that way or weren't quite in the meta at that point that no one ever saw coming. So this could be a glimpse into the future, or it could just be a glimpse into Omni being picked up more often at TI. I think that could be a strong possibility, or even Pugna. Pugna has been leaking in here and there, and I think that this could kind of show what his significance is. I also think that AA is criminally undervalued, and when he was taken advantage of in this tournament, he was used to great effect. So a very interesting game because of all of those mitigating factors. Also, the second game that I really enjoyed was Game 2 of the winners bracket, the winner bracket semi-finals. It was game 2, and it was LGD versus OG, and LGD actually 2-0'd OG. But they had a lineup that was really, really interesting. They had Shadow Shaman, Kunka, Quap, Beastmaster, and Medusa. And why this is so interesting is because they had a lineup on the other side that was very teamfight oriented, and they had an enigma. And they didn't, as you can see, if they had a BKB, they didn't really have a great way to stop it except for Beastmaster. But they did, actually, in another way. And I didn't even consider this until watching this draft. They got an aghs scepter on the Medusa, because you can actually snake another guy. It bounces, and it still bounces. Now, it doesn't do the magic damage or the magic damage or the actual stealing of mana, but it does turn people to stone still, and that still pierces through BKB, just like her ultimate pierces through BKB. So it was a really interesting style of lineup that I was not expecting, and I didn't really even understand that interaction could happen. So a real big props to them, LGD. That was an incredible game to watch. The guy that I feel like deserves an honorable mention, just because I love the silliness of the draft, and I don't know if it's really going to be a thing at TI. It just deserves a mention for all those who love it like I do. The OG versus EG game 3 of the loser semifinal bracket, deserved that honorable mention because of their mid Visage on OG and their support Monkey King. Trying to bring it back. It was really fun to watch. Honestly, I still hard think that MK should be, or Monkey King should be, a core always. He has a lot of potential in the core position, and he has to be like a 4th or 5th pick to come out of nowhere, and you have to have other people that can push, because he's not the best pusher. But dang, he has so much potential right now, and he is not utilized to his fullest as a support, because when he's supposed to be strong, he's just not that capable anymore, unless the other team out makes a giant mistake. And people have learned the hero pretty well now, and they don't make those giant mistakes anymore. So it's pretty crazy to see. The thing that I actually forgot to mention, and the thing that actually has me flabbergasted at this point, for some reason, I was going through today. I'm actually probably because I have super lack of sleep right now, but I forgot to mention something in my tweet and in this cast right now. So kind of a surprise information for those who have gotten to the end here. We have learned that Valve is going to be changing how the tournaments work, and they're actually changing the tournament structure to be an overhaul of what it once was. So how I was talking about that TI was going to be such a big deal, and how it's the focus of the year and it's everyone's biggest idea. They're actually going to be working a lot with third parties and making a lot more tournaments and bringing in a lot more fresh talent throughout the year. So this is a big boost to the competitive scene, and I, for one, am very, 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 very excited for what's going to happen. There's a lot of room to grow if you're trying to be anything else than a pro player. And even if you're trying to be a pro player, it seems like that more leagues are going to be opening up in the future that are bigger stepping stones than what are currently in place. Because it seems like you're there, you're not quite there, you're not quite there, you're not quite there, bam, you're recognized. And I, for one, really enjoy the process of hitting those milestones, and when you're in an MMR type situation, when you hit certain milestones, you feel like you deserve something. And when you're in this environment that you're at right now, like if you get 5K or if you get 5.5 or whatever, it's a milestone and people respect you, but it's not like, it's like, okay, you can play Dota pretty well. You're the top 1%, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we want to look at you at all. So for all those that are out there like me that really enjoy the game, that can see it from a different perspective, or look at it and maybe their fingers aren't as fast as they used to be. It's nice to have